Hello, ladies and gentlemen. And I say ladies because, there's a lot of guys in the crypto space, but there are a lot of ladies. And ladies, I appreciate you. So thanks for being here. I'm going to talk Bitcoin. I want to talk about Ethereum. I'm looking at Ethereum real close here. I'm liking the action. I want to show you some analysis on that. And I'll talk NEO and Bitcoin Cash. Holy moly. Look at this chart, guys. Bitcoin Cash. So I had this big pop earlier today. Nice little pullback, low volume. And okay, wait for it. All you Bitcoin maximalists are going to hate me. Yes, I bought some Bitcoin Cash. Now, I'm not saying I love Bitcoin Cash, long-term thing. Who knows? But, right now, I picked some up right around here, 370, 380 mark on this pullback. And it's looking good. So far, it's working. So we'll see where it goes. We're at $500. Now, this is a big move up here in the very short term. But if you zoom out on the daily chart, look at this chart. I mean, this setup, this pullback really tightened up right here around 270, 280, and just popped today. Nice volume coming in, so we'll see how far it goes. But I'm gonna ride the wave here, see how far it takes it. I mean, if it hits 600, I'm gonna be a happy camper. If it gets any higher than that, then very nice. I don't know how high it'll go personally. I mean, I think there's still a lot of supply out there, but the old high, at least this is on Bittrex, and I know it varied on some of the other exchanges as far as how high it ultimately got, but I mean 600, 700, 800? Let's see. Let's zoom in on the 4-hour chart here. So this is what I was looking at earlier, right? I saw this clear resistance, so I'm thinking we're going to have a little run, and my first level of resistance here was going to be this next level, and I was thinking 500 would be the next stop. If it gets above that, maybe 570, it's a pretty good target. And if it can clear 570, that's 800. So I was talking about it on the Twitter earlier today. I said, how high could it go? What did I say? 550, 800, maybe. So we'll see. It's had a nice little run here. I don't think it's going to go straight there. It's going to need to pull back a little bit, but so far so good. So Bitcoin Cash, looking hot right now. Let's look at some other ones. So I talked about Bitcoin just a few days ago and was talking about a potential pullback. We saw the pullback, wasn't a crash. And guys, to be clear, I wasn't calling for a crash. I was just saying a little extended here, looking to pull back. It did right down to that 3,800 mark or so. I know a lot of you people don't like to hear that, and every time I talk about Bitcoin pulling back, I get all the angry comments. It is what it is. I'm just trying to tell you guys what I'm seeing here. And so nice support came in. So right now this 38 to 4,000 zone, basically 38, 3,900 is solid support at this point. So you don't want to see that breakdown. Now we went this high, we pulled back, had this nice pop back to the upside. We overshot the prior highs, but on a 4-hour basis, we've not been able to really close much above that. So that's going to be key to watch. This old, not old, I mean, just a couple days ago, but this recent resistance here at the highs, and you can pop that up to basically, $4,400 just above it. I mean, I know we went as high as 4,480 and change. We're pulling in now. A couple of things that I don't like about this, and we're seeing some negative divergence on, at least on the 4-hour chart. On the daily, it's not that bad, but on the 4-hour chart, we're seeing some negative divergence here on this RSI. Look at that. And so every time it's making a new high, the RSI is not confirming that. That means the buyers are starting to get a little tired here. And typically that's when I start to get a little more cautious, a little more alert as to potential pullbacks. And that's what I'm seeing, guys. And that's still in place, right? So until that starts to change, we'll have to just keep an eye on it. Now, it could just base out here and go, sideways for a while and just kind of digest this move. I don't think the longer term run is over, but I mean, it's a little extended. It's had this nice run. More pullbacks to this 10 period will be very healthy, and we're seeing that, and they're holding right now on the daily. So far so good. Just wanted to point that out in the short term, especially for those that are trading this stuff. If you're doing these short-term trades, this is the stuff you pay attention to. If you're a long-term investor and you're just kind of riding the wave, don't worry about it, right? I mean, it's You know, you can pull back here to 3,800 again. I mean, if it pulls back hard, I mean, 3,500 is going to be a solid floor. So those could be potential opportunities to buy on the dips. So let's look at Ethereum, because I really want to talk about Ethereum here. Let's see what it's looking like. So here's Ethereum, and this is the 4-hour. And so it's kind of been settling in here right now. And, you know, on the pullback, we're seeing some support come in. So far, it hasn't broken out per se, but I'm watching this closely because I'm looking at these recent highs right here and right here as a potential area where it's going to break above, and when it does, it's going to have a nice little run. And so that 315, 320 zone, if it can close above that, that's going to be really nice. You know, I had this solid support here on this pullback day, right around 270-ish, 280. So just watch that level. I mean, if we get below that, that's not going to be a good sign. But right now, I'm liking the action in Ethereum. It's holding up well. It's kind of being a little quiet here, sitting tight, and that's good. And if we go to the daily chart here, you can see that action there too on the daily chart. Just had this nice run, digesting this recent rally that it's had, and just sitting real tight. And look at it, it's right on the 10 EMA, and that's been holding so far. So as long as that holds, I'm liking Ethereum here. If we look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, let's zoom out a little bit. So this is on the daily. And again, I'm looking at these lows, and I'm looking at this recent area here that it's consolidating. And I'm going, this is holding up pretty good. So this 0.06 area, right, 0.06 to 0.07, it seems to be holding pretty good. And I'm liking that versus Bitcoin. So if it can start to bounce here, we might see Ethereum start to outperform Bitcoin a little bit. Now, obviously, if Bitcoin starts to pull in, you'll see that pop here, but assuming Ethereum holds up. But I'm liking Ethereum here. So I'm really liking, you know, this RSI starting to bottom out here a little bit. It's kind of hitting these extreme lows. And this is not drastic, but it's a little bit of a positive divergence here where you can see the RSI back here versus the RSI here. This dip and this dip are basically the same level right now, but the RSI didn't go as low the second time. So you start to look out for signs like that. It's looking good. Another thing I was looking at is if we zoom out, way out, and we say, remember that big move we had from March, took us all the way to $400 in June. Doing a Fibonacci retracement on that, let's it's called a breakout. I mean, you can look at it. Let's look at this as kind of the big rally, and then that took it to the top. So if we do a fib on that, and let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. Look at where the 61.8 level is. Basically that same zone I'm talking about. That same 0.6, 0.7 area. And so that's just another confirmation that maybe this big pullback versus Bitcoin is over. And so I'd like to see it start to move up against Bitcoin here. And if it does, I mean, you can see a pretty decent rally. I mean, if we bounce from the lows here, let's say this low holds, even just getting to this first resistance zone is a 33% run. And at $300 Ethereum, that's a nice move. If we can get up to the next level, that's a 57%, almost 60% run on Ethereum. And so, you know, just you start looking at the potential. Even, I'm not saying we're going to go to old highs here right away, but if we went to old highs and the price of Bitcoin stayed the same, you're looking at 116%. That puts you at over $600 Ethereum. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see $600 Ethereum, but those are the type of risk reward entries that I like to make. So you look at the upside potential and then you look at the downside. You don't have to give it much room on the downside if it starts to break below this support level. And so it's a nice risk reward entry. I'm thinking Ethereum's going to start outperforming Bitcoin. So let's see what happens. It's still below the moving averages, so that's going to have to turn around for this bull case to start getting some more legs. But, you know, let's see it get above this 10 EMA first and start to see the moving averages start to reverse higher. We're not seeing that yet, but I think we're getting close. Let's take a look at NEO. So I'm going to zoom into the 4 hour. So there's been a lot of talk of this head and shoulder pattern forming on NEO. I was looking at a couple of different ways. I was looking at this resistance or the support, and that's starting to break down. The moving averages are starting to turn. So right now, NEO is looking weak. Any way you look at it, it's looking weak here. Now the RSI is starting to hold this 40 area, and when things remain in bull mode, you know, like what I like to say, the 40 holds. And so right now it's holding. But if I start looking at support levels, these are the levels I'm looking at for NEO. This 0.8 is going to be a good level that it needs to hold. So that's right here. And that should act as a good floor. We're pretty close to that now, so we could see a little spike low. If that doesn't hold, then the next level of support is going to be this prior area of consolidation here. And it's more of a zone than an exact area. So it's kind of that 0.65 to 0.7 area. So this is the area that I'm looking at for NEO on the downside extreme. If we see that, I think this is going to be a very solid floor and a very good opportunity to look at NEO if you're not in it. If you look at the daily chart, that area holds up well, and look at it corresponds with this 30 EMA. Now, if we see a quick spike, that 30 EMA will be right here. If it takes its time, then it's going to just drift a little higher. But these are the two areas. So this little area here is kind of the key area to start looking at it. Right now, it looks like it wants to go lower. And so that 0.8 should be a good floor to look at, and this 0.65 to 0.7 solid support. If you look at the retracement levels, again, that correlates with that level. And so you can see 618 here correlates with this area that I'm talking about. So multiple things line up there. That's what I'd be looking at on NEO. If you see the pullback, I mean, longer term, I think NEO is very good. I'm liking NEO, and I personally will be looking to add in this area here on any pullback on NEO. Other than NEO, guys, I've been doing some trading, nothing long term on some of these other smaller cap names. There's been a lot of popular ones. We saw ADEX having a nice little run here the last couple of days. You know, a couple of good waves, caught some of those, but again, those are just short-term trades for me right now. Long-term, do they have potential? I mean, these are small cap names, and I can certainly see the case for market cap will be much higher, but I think they need some settling in. I mean, we've literally had hundreds of percents run here in just a couple days, 600%. So made for some nice trading when you catch these little pops. And if you zoom in, I mean, most of this trading I'm doing on hourly charts. And so you're looking at these consolidations and the nice little pops, consolidations pop. And you just got to take your profits fast when you do these trades. So the same technical analysis applies as you do when you're making longer term buys on the 4-hour and the 1-day charts. But in this, it's a little bit more momentum based, and they're a little more short lived. So when you see these big spikes, your sell rules have to be a little more disciplined here because they're volatile. And you can see it pulling in right now. Another example was, what were the other ones? Monaco. And this one, again, small cap name and running right now. Had this nice little run, little pop. Looks like it's consolidating here. You know, if it starts to break below this 30 EMA on the 1-hour chart, then probably going to see more leg down. But, you know, these are nice little trades. If you see them break out above these little resistance levels here, they tend to have pretty decent runs. I mean, even Monaco right here, if it breaks above this resistance, even just getting to that old spike high, that's 40%. And if you can catch a trade that gives you 40%, I mean, no complaining there. Another one is Token. You know, these are all kind of in the same group. So you look at Token, Token card again, consolidating the move here recently, could have another pop here. So I'm watching this. I'm liking the way some of these are setting up, at least for short term. Long term, I think they're, you know, one of these will definitely be a winner. You know, Token, 10X, Monaco, you know, it's a very competitive space, but I think there's a use case there, and I think we'll see some further growth in some of these longer term. Near term, you know, anything can happen. They've had these big runs on the daily charts. You can see these big spikes, a lot of distribution here at the high, so you're going to see them pull in a little bit, I think. Other than that, guys, let's take one more. OmiseGO. So this is the daily chart of OmiseGO. I think it's just having another pause, consolidating. This is, other than maybe IOTA, this is probably the strongest chart out there in my opinion. Just has had a series of nice stair-step moves, and the volume is very positive. You see the volume coming in on the big spikes, and so there's very little selling right now going on in this one. If you see these recent highs, especially on a closing basis, get taken out, and we're really close. You can see another one, but you know, it's had several, so it only does this so many times before it becomes just too obvious and it needs to pull in a little bit or settle out or form a different type of base. But looking pretty good. Let's zoom in a little bit on the hourlies. Selling off a little bit here. If you look at the hourly, you're going to play this. Let me zoom out to maybe the 2 or the 4 hour. Yeah, so you can see on the 2 hour, this kind of just catching up with some of these moving averages. So the way I'd be looking at this here on the 2 hour chart is just you got to play the trends a little bit more here. So, you know, if you see a little upside break to that, watch the downside trend. You know, you're not going to want to see that moving average get taken out too far. And again, it just depends on your time frame. If you're trading these, that's a little bit different. If you're a longer term holder, you know, I've kind of been writing OmiseGO down from the $2 area and off and on some trading here and there, but I'm liking it long term. I think it just needs a little bit of consolidation, some settling in here, but very strong. One more. Let's look at IOTA. I keep saying one more, but once you get me going on the charts, I get into it here. So IOTA has had a nice run. Why don't you see that? So it's moving nicely. I mean, IOTA can't complain. I did get out of this just because I'm doing some other repositioning on this. Nothing bad. I mean, I have no complaints against this. I know some of you guys are looking at this right now. I just think it needs to rest. It's maybe a little bit exhausted here, but it's just got a lot of support. And I mean, this trend is clean. I mean, that's about as nice and clean as it gets here on the upside. Very rarely do you see these kind of steady charges to the upside in crypto space. I mean, it's had some pretty decent pullbacks here, but all of them have been met with support so far. So until that changes, no complaints against IOTA. That's going to be it for now, guys. I am going to be working on some infrastructure updates to the website, trying to automate a few more things, some of the payment side of things a little bit. I'm looking at some mini courses that I'm going to be working on. I know that was some of the feedback from the webinar, so look out for those in the coming weeks. If you're emailing me, I may be slow to respond over the next few days as I will be on travel and out of pocket and mostly out of internet service, which, man, let's see if I can survive without looking at the charts for a few days. But I'm going to enjoy my time and just giving you guys a heads up. I know the email and some of that has been a little busy lately, so do my best to keep up with you guys. But I appreciate all the support. I appreciate the subscribers and all of you guys that have purchased the course. Thank you for the feedback and for the recommendations. And that's going to be it for tonight, guys. Until next time, take care.